Hey everyone, it's me, Solo. Today is 14.4 patch notes. A couple big changes, but a lot of little small ones, so let's go over them really quickly. First off, we have Ahri. She's getting really small changes, just a little bit of buff. Probably not going to be that big of a difference for her. Play the same way. Aurelion Sol getting another nerf. They really kind of screwed over Aurelion Sol players. But he's just getting another small nerf to his Q damage. Champion's still pretty good, but they really seem like they just want to beat this guy down, even though they just buffed him, so a little bit strange. Bard getting some strange changes because he was already a good support, probably one of the best supports right now. And although they're nerfing his tankiness right here, and they're really incentivizing you to build AP, I still think he's a good champion. You can kind of build anything, but now if you want to build AP on him and do a little bit more damage, you certainly can. So that'll be a little bit fun. Just another element, a different build for him to do. Fiora, really small change, just a little bit of an attack speed nerf on her W, which playing against Fiora will feel awesome because it won't feel like your champion is just completely crippled. But it probably won't really change it too much. A lot of W usage is to negate the ability more than just get their attack speed low anyways. Alawi, kind of a big nerf. She's getting 15% of the total AD ratio off of her tentacle slams, which, tentacle slams are basically her only damage profile. So it's, a pretty big nerf, and especially to like her full AD build. Maybe there'll be more Iceborne usage. Maybe people will build a little bit more tanky, but kind of a massive nerf. She was one of the highest win rates tops, so it's a little bit understandable, but I'm surprised they went this heavy-handed with it. Jace, really small buffs, but base AD can kind of mean a lot, especially on a champion that's ranged. So 2 AD might seem small, but can really add up if you're getting a lot of auto attacks into the laning phase. He's going to get a little bit more damage and mana on his W. And his E, as people have been talking a lot about, kind of how janky it is right now. It's supposed to work like Lee Sin are, which can be kind of bad with champions that jump kind of behind you, like Irelia and Jax. But it seems like they're really committed to making this kind of the baseline. So maybe we'll see more Jace buffs if this ends up being a problem with him having such like a static E instead of having the way it was before, where you would be able to knock people away so much easier. Okay, massive changes to K'Sante. Can't even fit them all on one screen. The gist of it is they really want to take away the fact that he can chase you so easily in his all-out form. So the Q slow is taken off of all out, which is huge because that's really how he would kill you. Just completely chasing you down. You can't get away from him, especially after Frozen Fist or Iceborne. They're also making it so his W, the all-out form, is not the quick release. You have to charge it up similar to the base form of W, and you don't have nearly the amount of Ws that you're going to have. So you probably won't get 2 Ws off in your all-out form. And as well, they are adding a little bit of tankiness to his W and his base stats. But it seems like they've really kind of made it impossible for him to get solo kills. Like pre-gauntlet, even after, it could still be really hard. I don't know exactly how it's going to feel with losing the slow and losing the mobility. Even on his E, the mobility is taken away. So this might be like a complete gutting of the champion. I'd be really surprised if it's even in competitive anymore, because a lot of his benefits was being able to make plays and have like a little bit of carry potential. But now there's like nothing to fear. I don't think this guy is going to be able to kill you nearly as much as before. And I think I'm a really big fan of this because I don't like K'Sante very much. I think he's a really menace to the game. So I think really good idea. We'll see how he turns out. Small buff for Kai'Sa. Just a little bit of ulti range. This champ's like bordering on being OP. So we'll see what they keep on doing. But now that they found the Eclipse static Shiv build on her, she's been really good. And I continue to see her like do well in these games. Kalista, really small nerf. Just Rend will do a little bit less damage on the first stack. So not really that big a deal. Lulu, a champ that I haven't seen in forever. Probably one of the weaker supports. Getting a little bit of E buff just for like the later part of the game, but you do end up maxing that first in a lot of cases, or you get a couple points in Q depending on the lane. I don't think this is really going to change that much for her, but if you join the champ, these are nice. They're back at it again, nerfing Maokai. So this champ has been like the best support for so long, and he's even an okay jungler. They're nerfing his armor by 4, and they're nerfing a little bit of his Q damage and the root on his R. I don't know if this is going to be enough, because the really broken part about Maokai is saplings are great for vision and control and being able to walk in and like check for yourself and drop your wards. And the W root is just a point and click CC, which is always really broken. So we'll see if this is enough, but they seem really set on making him not the tier 1 support, and we'll see if they accomplish that. Okay, massive changes to Rek'Sai. There's so much to go over here with Rek'Sai. The gist of it is they really didn't like the kind of tanky build that people, or they didn't really like the one-shot lethality Rek'Sai format that people were doing, where you could just unburrow, one-shot, E does 600 damage and you kill them. So they're leaning so much more into, hey, she's going to be a tank or a bruiser, and they want you to weave in and out of fights and, do a little damage, leave, heal up with your passive, come back in, knock up the whole team. I think it's kind of a pipe dream just because of the way the champion functions. And from reading these, it seems like they've kind of gutted her damage across the board. Like her Furious Bite, for example, just doesn't do true damage, does targets maximum health, which is great for killing tanks, but it's not great for like backline penetration or pressuring carries. So I think there's a really small chance that she'll be good off rip, but maybe in the future she can be okay. She has a lot of regen now, so maybe she'll be like some top lane, like Udyr type top laner where you can't really push her out of lane. That's my only thought. But for right now, it seems like she's going to be kind of weak, and at least you won't get one shot by her, because I thought the build with her having lethality was really frustrating to play against. So I'm glad that they've taken that away, and maybe with some more buffs in the future, this champ can be like good and kind of be like a fun, back and forth bruiser. And then Renekton's getting some buffs. I mean, Renekton's problem is mostly Gore Drinker was his best item, and it wasn't even close. And the subsequent items they've added in aren't really that useful for him. So they're giving him a little bit more Q healing. They're giving more E cooldown, but most of the time people max W second, so the E cooldown doesn't really matter. Ulti's giving you a little bit more health to kind of like synergize with the Sundered Sky. I mean, I think the champion is still the same. Like, the problem with the champion is he's just not that useful, and there's no Herald to fight for early, so there's no like real incentive to play around him. So I think he'll still be in the same spot even with these buffs. Okay, Smolder. So the playstyle for Smolder right now is to get points into W, and you kind of use that to poke people out and push the wave, and you kind of win lane early on a champ that's like supposed to be hard scaling. So they're making W a little bit worse, especially just the first portion. The explosion is going to do a little bit more, especially later on, but it seems like they really wanted to nerf that part of his kit. Q is also getting like a small nerf adjustment. I still think the champ's gonna play exactly the same. People are gonna do the same thing. Probably the biggest buff, small buff that he's getting is his R will actually go off when he dies, which will be really nice, because at least you'll be able to contribute when you're getting one shot, which was something that was really hard for him since he is kind of a squishy champ that's a little bit short range. Okay, Soraka getting a little bit of buffs. She is getting a little bit more movement speed, a little bit more healing on her Q, and a little bit more of cooldown on her R. She might be like annoying in some solo lane perspective. Maybe people will play her tops because they can just max Q and the heal is actually pretty fat now. I don't know. I mean, the ambulance running is going to be really funny to see because she will be zooming right now, especially if you go like Swifties or something. But the champ is still very similar. I think it'll just play the same. Thresh, I haven't seen this champ in a while. I think the biggest problem with Thresh, he almost needs like a minor rework or some type of like improvement to his ulti. Right now, his ultimate is just too slow for the game, and it's so low impact compared to like a lot of other, support ultimates. You think of stuff like Renata ulti being so game changing, like Rel ulti being so game changing, Milia ulti. It's every other support that's really, really good just has such a huge ultimate. And Thresh is like, oh, it takes me, 30 seconds to throw up a box and you get slowed a little bit. And it only slows one person most of the time. So he is still really weak in that aspect, but they're trying to improve him in like, other ways. I mean, he's getting a little armor, he's getting more flay damage. But I would really like to see like some type of minor rework tweak, because I love his base kit, but his ultimate is so lackluster that I think that's like the big difference he needs. Okay, this is probably the strangest change in the patch notes. I don't understand this at all. So TF, as people know, there's been a AD like TF hybrid build that people have been doing. You can go Kraken, you can go Static Shiv, and you can kind of be on hit like hybrid. Maybe you can build Lich Bane. Kind of build whatever you want, but attack speed items are really, really good early. And I expected them, it's been like one of the highest win rate builds, and I expected them to nerf that, maybe nerf his E, and just make it like a little bit harder for you to build those items and just get straight value. But instead they nerf his AP values like by a lot too. I mean, and they nerf his attack speed a little bit, but I wouldn't really say that playing him I was like, wow, my attack speed is super high. It was just, you know, I was building items and my E does a ton of damage. So I don't really get what the point of nerfing the AP build is. It's very, very strange. I don't really get it. The on hit build is just going to be still broken. So I'm really confused what the thought process is here. I feel like we're going to see another nerf for TF in the next patch, and it's going to address the AD thing. And then he's just going to be like way worse than he was before they even buffed his AD on hit build. So very, very strange. I don't really understand what they're thinking, if they just like the on hit build and they're fine with it because it's kind of more skill based. But it's very strange because the AP build is not like broken in the least at all. Varus -2 AD. I mean, it's fine. He's a really good laning champ, so I think hitting his laning is appropriate. Okay, Volibear, kind of big jungle buffs. His Q, which is like the ability you max first, or at least you put 3 points into, depending on like how you want to play. He's getting a lot of movement speed from it, so you know, he's only getting 4 per level, but it's actually 8 because you'll be chasing a champion and it will be a doubled. So that'll be really nice because, you know, he is a immobile champion, so being able to get on people is important. I think the biggest change though is we have Stormbringer. His ultimate, they're trading off, so you get a little bit less of the turret disable, and instead you get 30 seconds off the cooldown, which is a tremendous amount. And honestly, that was kind of his biggest problem as a champion, was his ultimate is just never up. And if you ever have to use it to escape, your champ is just useless for 2+ minutes, which as a jungler, it's really hard, especially an early game jungler like Volibear who needs a snowball. If you're just using ultimate, it's kind of like Nocturne ulti to run away or something, you know? So I think this is really big for him. I don't know how much this is going to push him up, but I would think it does really well. I was thinking maybe you could actually go into like a Hexplate first build, and now that the cooldown's so low, you might be able to just spam your ultimate with Hexplate and some like rabbit or like you know, the rune to get his ultimate cooldown reduced, and maybe you could just perma dive people or something, or use it a lot. It'd be really nice. Zyra is getting another nerf after they buffed her a couple patches ago. Just a little bit more damage nerf to her plants, but they are buffing her in jungle to do more jungle damage. It seems like Riot's always kind of wanted to like double dip with champions, taking support champions and making them like pretty good in jungle, just so that people can be able to transition, since jungle is probably the hardest role for new players to get into. And so Zyra seems like that champ for supports that, you know, if you play Zyra, she's going to be like Brand, kind of, where if you want to play her jungle, if you have to autofill or something, this is kind of, you know, what people want to do. All right, lastly, we get into items. Cleaver is just going to stack a little bit faster and be a little bit better and have a little bit better of a build path, but similar item. Probably go up in value a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be like the biggest difference, but if you're a champ like Gnar, you know, this is like a perfect, and you know, maybe we'll see this item more often. Hullbreaker, so they're changing this item pretty much just for Urgot. So Urgot right now, Hullbreaker is his best item, and it was working like on attack, so you would be able to use your W and then charge it and then use the actual like auto passive to do a lot of damage to champions and do like an absolute absurd amount of damage to turrets. And now they're adjusting it to be an on-hit item. Now I've heard people say that this might create a like another problem where you have a champ like Vayne who can go Rage Blade, or like TF who can go Rage Blade, and then they can build Hullbreaker next. And since you're getting like the kind of double auto from Rage Blade, you're going to get a lot of procs off of Hullbreaker. So it remains to be seen if that is a problem, but at the moment, Urgot was like a huge issue and probably one of the most frustrating top laners to play against. So I'm glad they nerfed this item, or at least adjusted it in regards to him. Hydra is just getting a little bit more kind of like value from the active, but really, really small. This item's already kind of a whatever situation. Okay, so Stridebreaker, I guess, had a few bugs in it. I don't know the frequency of these bugs, but just reading them, if this was happening like often, I think this item was actually kind of broken because it seems like it wasn't working at all, and it was already like quite a good item on so many champions like Garen, Darius. I was playing a lot on Set, so it was already probably like one of the best items, and now it seems like it's going to work even better. You know, you're getting the whole like movement speed buff, the proper duration. You're gonna have less of like, as like you'll deal damage as soon as it goes off instead of having to like deal with some delay. So I think it'll be even better. I don't know. They might nerf this item in the future depending on how much these bugs were happening. Terminus is the other item. Similar to Cleaver, it's going to stack faster and be a little bit stronger. I'm surprised because I saw this item built a lot, and although it is an item that you don't really notice so much in the games, I do think it's a strong item like on paper. So now that they're buffing it, you know, even more like champions like Kai'Sa, you know, Varus, these champs are like use this item. You know, Kayle maybe if you're playing a lot of Kales in your game. So even better item. I think this is great, like third item for a lot of champions. All right, lastly, it wouldn't be a patch notes without nerfing support even more. So there's a couple changes across the board. The big one that they are trying to avoid is, if you had seen it, Doran's Blade start on support is really, really popular right now. Let's say you're playing Ashe support or Pyke support. A lot of them start Doran's Blade, and since it's such an efficient item, they're able to like really, really dominate the lane level 1. And the reason they do this is because the amount of like when you first back early, you can instantly get all your stacks, and you can kind of get your support item ramped up at the same amount of time as the other support while you're like winning lane. So the value is like really, really high. So they're nerfing it so that the support item doesn't give you the bonus stacks if you purchase it like later on in the game. So hopefully that will do it. I mean, they seem like they don't want people to buy support on, or to buy Doran's Blade on support, which I kind of agree with. I think it's a frustrating way to play against. They're also having the quest item give you charges earlier in the game, but hopefully not enough to make like level 2 kind of like easy for certain supports. And then as well as that, they're changing a lot of items, buffing stuff like Bounty of Worlds that nobody builds, nerfing Bloodsong because it's still like probably one of the best support items. And then changing the Slay, and also, you know, nerfing a little bit of the Realm Spike. So kind of making the bad support items better, making the best support items worse, normal stuff. And then they're just keep on nerfing these lost chapter items. I'm not sure why. I guess they're just not performing as well as some of the ones that don't have mana, and I think they want to focus on that. And Blessed Riot Soul, the biggest change. Lethal Tempo is nerfed early game by a considerable amount. Now, it will be better later, but everyone knows that the frustrating part about Lethal Tempo was, you know, the level 1, especially on champs like Yone, Vayne, Yasuo, stuff like that. So this will be really nice. It seems like it's going to be a really bad early lane rune, but past like 9, I think it's probably going to trend up into being useful. Maybe it's like 11. I don't know what the breakpoint is, but now you probably still will lose trades to the Yone level 1 just based off the champion, but it won't be nearly like as oppressive as it was before, which would be really nice. The rest, it's just some changes to how things are documented in the game. And then the last big thing is the tether ability changes. So if you've ever had the opportunity to try to flash out of LeBlanc route, and then she roots you anyways, even though you're like, you know, 1,000 range away, they're nerfing that, and they're stopping stuff like Karma W, Morgana Ultimate, Aatrox W. So any tether abilities should have a much more normal, like reactive state to flashing out of them, which will be really nice. And you know, it's always been one of the more frustrating things about League, and I'm surprised they did this because that was kind of like an accepted reality, and now, you know, this is what they're doing. And I wonder if they might have to buff these champions in the future depending on how much they lose, especially a champ like LeBlanc, who I feel like probably gets this a lot and gets a lot of kills because of it. So it'll be in the future, but overall, that's pretty much the patch notes. I think that it'll be really interesting to see K'Sante and Rek'Sai, see if they actually, you know, how they affected with these big changes. And then we'll see how much Riot even buffs or nerfs these champions in the future, because I know they want to keep the patch similar to meta right now for MSI. And they're usually a little bit slower on changes, you know, moving forward as the competitive season gets deeper. So thank you for watching. If you guys like this, please like and subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching.